you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche And after 22 years, Raymond Mark!
The sickest NHL podcast. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here on the Sick Podcast Network. A new week, but we are still in the second round, Pierre. Game 7 tonight, Edmonton Oilers at the Vancouver Canucks. It's going to be a wild scene, I think, in Vancouver. Those fans are already pretty revved up, I'm imagining, Pierre. But just looking back on the game that got us to this Game 7, what was your reaction to Game 6 there between the Oilers and the Canucks that the Oilers won 5-1?
The Oilers are really good. Vancouver wasn't good.
Yeah.
There's no other way to couch it. I mean, Vancouver's got to play a certain brand. They got to be physical. They got to be hard. They got to be determined, and they got to be fearless. They weren't any of those things. And as much as, Rick Tocchet's a really special coach and a guy that knows how to motivate players, Jimmy, he's going to have to give them their best speech ever going into Game 7 because you know what? Without Brock Besser and without Thatcher Demko and without, I think, a Quinn Hughes being 100%, they're up against it. Yeah. I don't care how passionate their fan base is. None of those people can go on the ice and score.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to have to figure it out as a team. And if they can, then they got a chance to win. But this is a big ask, Jimmy.
Yeah, interesting what you say there, too. I mean, obviously, the bread and butter of Vancouver is a hard work ethic and also a physical game, Pierre. And they were out-hit 49-38 by the Oilers in Game 6, so got a taste of their own medicine there. And if you look at the games that the Oilers have won in this series, it's almost like they flipped the script a bit on Vancouver and played a little of their style, and it's worked. And Vancouver hasn't been able to handle it too much there when they do that. So we'll see what happens. I mean, look, I'm like you. I love Rick Tocchet. I want to see him go far. I don't really have a horse in the race here, but I do like him. But there's also some Oilers I like there. But Vancouver's going to have to stick to their plan. They can't try to be something they're not. And like you said, without Brock Besser in the lineup, that's going to be tough. By the way, so for those that don't know, Brock Besser is missing this game because of blood clots. And that was a hot topic in the last 12 to 24 hours around the NHL and how he might have got it. Some people saying it's from the vaccine, Pierre. And that's craziness. What I want to talk about, though, like you and I were talking about off the air, is, there's been a history of this in the NHL. This is nothing new. This has happened to plenty of players before. Unfortunately, heck, we had Andy Brickley on here a week ago talking about how his career basically ended from one, and luckily he was saved. It was life-threatening, and they saved him. So it can get pretty dangerous with that, though, Pierre. But one thing I brought up to you that I found interesting is how, and I guess you're saying it's been going on for a bit now, a lot of teams try not to fly right after a game. And this is one of the reasons why, because they need the body to heal from what it just went through and from the dehydration that might be taking place, eh?
Yeah, no, that's part of it for sure. I think one of the things is that, teams need to get rest after playoff games. And you can't legislate before you book your travel, whether you're going to play in regulation, 1 overtime, 2 overtimes, 3 overtimes. So the best business practice is probably to stay overnight after a game, especially when you have a chance to get home after that second game, or, whether it's a Game 5 or Game 6, or depending where you are in the standing or in the series. So, yeah, no, I think that's smart. But, Freddie Anderson had blood clots most of this year.
Yeah.
And, whether he would bounce back 100%, nobody really knows. I mean, he played admirably.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's 100%. I don't know. But it is something that you got to be concerned with. Brock, I can say this. We've talked about Brock Besser on the show a lot. I don't care about him as a hockey player. I care about him as a person. He's an outstanding human being. Mm-hmm. And you only want the best for him health-wise. The Vancouver Canucks fans are going to miss him. But I'm telling you, as a person, he's a spectacular person.
He really is. And he's been through so much over the last 2 years, losing his dad and everything else, and now dealing with this. So you got to feel for him as a human being there and keep that at the forefront there. All right, Pierre, let's go the night before. There were 2 games on Friday night. Obviously, we haven't spoken since Friday afternoon. We'll start with the game that I was at, the Florida Panthers and Boston Bruins, Game 6. And look, pretty much as you thought it would go. I mean, the Bruins hung around. They had a lead. They were in it. But then the better team just pulled away and won. And I'll tell you, Pierre, he's starting to get some love now after his game-winning goal, but Gustav Forsling just continues to be such a great story for the Florida Panthers, and just in the right place at the right time there to put that rebound home for the game winner.
Yeah, no, I felt bad. I felt bad for Waller-Spooner, and I felt bad, obviously, for the goaltending situation in Boston because Jeremy had played so well.
Oh, my gosh.
You know, there's not much you can do there. It's a perfect shot. It's almost like divine intervention kicked in, and the puck's perfectly on the line, and it goes right through the defenseman's legs and right on the short side past Jeremy Swayman. Lots of good stuff for Boston. I mean, I know the fans are disappointed because they lost Jimmy, but you got to be realistic.
Yes.
Realistically, the Boston Bruins were playing with house money.
Yep.
You know, you consider what they had to go through this entire year, and you see some of the injuries, and then you find out after the series about some of the injuries, and you're missing, obviously, because of retirement, 2 key components down the middle. Boston did well just to get past the first round.
Yeah, you know, Pierre, it brought me back. We've been talking a lot, obviously, with the Rangers run right now that they're on. It's the 30th anniversary of the 94 team. And I don't know if that triggered the thought in my head, but I thought back, and I don't know if you can remember, Pierre, you were probably coaching then, the 93-94 Bruins. They lost to the New Jersey Devils in the second round. And I had the same exact feel watching this series that I watched it. It was a 6-game series. They hung with the Devils, but clearly the Devils were a better team. Of course, the Devils went on to play the Rangers in a 7-game epic series there, the one where Messier made the prediction in Game 6. But, you know, you get teams like this where you kind of have to just accept it for what it is if you're a fan. I mean, I know it's hard in the moment. You're frustrated. You want to see your team go far, but be proud of this Bruins team for Bruins fans out there. I mean, Jeremy Swayman, he has arrived. And, I just wrote it for Boston Hockey Now. The Bruins got to be regretting not taking that 2-year option on the arbitration award last year because they're going to have to show him the money right now. I mean, his agent's feeling like Jerry McGuire for sure. They're going to show him the money, and they've got no choice. And he's going to get term, and he's going to get money. So he's arrived, and they're going to have to figure out what to do with Linus Ullmark. But overall, this team, if you look at it, they've got 20.5 in cap space to spend. They could do some damage in the offseason. The only thing, as you pointed out to me, it's not the best UFA market that they're walking into with this money.
No, and you can't spend crazily.
No.
You got to spend wisely because you do not want to create internal conflict for contracts for players coming down the pipe internally. So tomorrow, or is it Wednesday or tomorrow that the Bruins are going to have their availability?
Wednesday. They're going to do it Wednesday.
Charlie Jacobs, Cam Neely, Donnie Sweeney, and Jim Montgomery.
Yes. So that's
getting fired.
I know. That should erase any doubt,
Please stop. How did people – what did you want him to do? Oh, are they going to talk about the too many men on the ice penalties? Is that why you should be fired?
I don't know. I think people just like to have knee-jerk reactions, Pierre. And unfortunately, coaches are very disposable this past year. 16 coaches in the last calendar year have been fired. So, I get where some of it was coming from. I didn't say it was right, but it's just it's a scary world for coaches right now. But I'm happy to see that he will be at the podium with those guys, which should indicate that his job is safe.
Yeah, anytime ownership goes on there with the president of hockey operations and the GM and you're the coach, chances are you're not getting punted.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be on there. I'm just saying, people have to start being more fair. I know it's not about being fair. I get it, but you got to be common sense.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy's a really good coach.
He really is.
Right now, I brought up something to Jimmy. Jimmy, we're not to say names, okay? No names.
No problem.
I brought up to Jimmy today about a coach that's getting rave reviews. Right, Jimmy? Rave reviews. And then, Jimmy, I'll take over. You take over when I'm done.
Okay.
I pointed out to Jimmy this exercise that I did on this person that's getting the rave reviews. Jimmy, were you stunned when I pointed it out to you?
Yeah, I was.
You were, right?
Yep.
So a lot of this business now isn't about how good you are. It's how good you're perceived to be.
Mm-hmm.
And who are your friends in the media and who's going to write puff stories about you because this is what it's becoming. And which guy's going to leak to you the most so that you're going to write the puff pieces about them.
Yep. I can vouch for that. It goes on.
So were you surprised? Seriously, don't flatter me. Were you shocked when I pointed it out to you?
I was shocked. I thought it was a better track record than that this coach had. But sadly, I'm not shocked that a narrative can sometime take precedent over facts and stats. We see that way too much these days, like you're saying, Pierre, and it's a bit frustrating because, especially if you're a fan of that team who hires a coach or gets a player based on a certain narrative, and then that doesn't come to fruition, you'd be like, wait a minute, what happened? I thought this guy was supposed to be the savior. I thought this guy was going to be the next one. So, you got to really dig deep like you did there, Pierre. I urge our listeners and viewers to do that too when they're looking at players, because we're going to see a lot of that, right? We just talked.
That's why I'm bringing this up.
Yeah, we're talking about free agents to get built up. Yep.
You're taking it from the coach perspective. But here's what's about to happen. I'm just telling you right now, because I'm already getting calls and I'm saying, oh boy, I know what's going on here.
Oh yeah. And
it's not their fault.
No.
Agents have a responsibility to represent their constituents the best way they can, and that is to sell them, to glorify the things they've accomplished. The problem is, if you don't do your work as a management team and as a player procurement team, you could get buffaloed by some of these guys.
Yep.
And this UFA class, there's some home run hitters. There's some really good ones. But it drops. It drops pretty quickly. And if you overspend on term and dollar value, I don't care how much the cap goes up, you're going to get stuck.
Yep. You're going to have an anchor.
A great year to be wanting to fish in the deep end for free agents.
Yeah. And that's why I said to you, Pierre, when we were going back and forth about how I would approach the offseason if I'm Don Sweeney with that cap money, I'd be looking more at trades and seeing what I could get.
You could say that. You 100% on. Was it Friday night or Saturday? I forget when we were texting.
I think it was Saturday night when we were just going back and forth.
We were texting back and forth, and you said that to me because I had said, Jimmy, bad year to be deep sea fishing for UFAs.
Yeah.
But then you made a good point.
Yep. So if I'm looking at the UFA market, and I'm any team, not just Don Sweeney, I've got some money to spend, I would be looking more at plugs, Pierre, instead of like finding a player where I'm going to throw a wad of money at in a wad of years. I'd be looking more at like role guys, just filling in some slots that you need filled on your roster. But I would look, like I'm saying, at the trade market, because I think there are some pretty good, solid players, some young ones too, that are kind of right there, ready to break out, that could be traded because of teams' cap issues. And Pierre, we're not gonna speculate on names, but I'll just say, looking at their list of what they've got in terms of RFAs and UFAs to deal with, if I'm a GM, I'm calling up Don Waddell in Carolina and seeing what I can pry, because he's going to have to make some moves that he doesn't necessarily want to make. That's just the reality of it.
And I think the good thing, if you're a fan of the Carolina Hurricanes right now, the real positive thing there, yes, Donnie's a GM, and I'd like Donnie a lot, but Rod Brind'Amour's got 5 years. He didn't get 2, he didn't get 3, he got 5. So when you give a coach 5 years, more times than not in the NHL, the coach doesn't have the player procurement side. These are the players, you're going to coach them. In Rod's case, I think he's going to have some say over roster situation.
Yep.
That's going to be very interesting, because if you see players that don't get signed there, I'm going to say more times than not, Rod didn't think he fit in their system.
Yeah.
And if you see a player traded away, probably Rod didn't think he fit in the system.
Well, I'm just going to say, Pierre, I don't know where he's going to go. I don't know if they're going to keep him or not. But looping back to how we started this conversation and players or coaches getting built up maybe with false narratives sometimes, and maybe it's not always what it appears. One guy, because he is a hot name right now. Just be careful if you want your team to get him. Just watch closely, do the research. Martin Akis in Carolina, who I'm a fan of, Pierre, but he's going to become the buzz name very soon. Watch out.
He's already
it's already happened, right?
He's already out there. The guy. Now, if you were to ask me, okay, what player would you want off Carolina's roster that you could potentially get in a UFA situation? It'd be Brett Pesce.
Yeah, me too.
that's the player that I would want. And that's not a knock on Marty Necas, who I think for certain teams, like if you were San Jose, let me just throw this at you.
Mm-hmm.
If you are San Jose and you are goal starved, you are absolutely goal starved. Would you want Marty Necas? I think you would.
Yep.
I think you would.
Yeah.
Would Marty want to go? I don't know if he wants to go there or not. But I'm just using that as let's just say for the sake of argument, you're Marty Necas and you see they got Will Smith and they got Macklin Celebrini, and you know what? I'm gonna have, no matter what, I got an elite center playing with me. I'm probably gonna pop 30 to 35 every year for the next 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
Would you think about it? You probably would, right?
Yep.
But if you're a really good team, and that's why I don't put Pesce in the San Jose bucket, but if you're a really good team and you think you got a chance to win and you're a little late on the back end, that's a guy you go get.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. The only thing that I worry about, Pierre, with Pesce is he's UFA, right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So the age. Do you go past 3 years on a deal?
I would.
He's at 30 years old. He's going to be 31 in November.
Yeah, no, I would go 4 years.
Okay.
I would. And his agent's probably going to want 5 to 6.
That's what I'm thinking.
But I think if you're that kid, and I still call him a kid because I'm 32 years older than him.
20, so.
if you're that kid, you want to win.
Yeah.
Right? So I would hope, because I know him pretty well. I really respect him as a person, as a player.
The situation could become the most important thing.
Yeah, he's a different player. That's what I'm saying. He's a guy that if you're a really good team and we're a little light here, you probably go get that guy.
Yep.
Because he's going to help you win. He's coming from a winning program, and he's going to help you win. That's going to be if they lose him, that's a big loss.
Yeah, it's a huge loss.
I know
in the playoffs.
People are going to say that, look, they got guys coming. They do. Like Scotty Morrow's going to play in the NHL. He's from your alma mater. He's a good player. Bradley Nadeau is going to play in the NHL. Yep. He was from the University of Maine. He's a great, great player. He's a little undersized. Is he better than Marty Necas? Probably not. But is he going to eat up some of that offense and produce up? Yeah, I think he can. So, I mean, they've got guys coming in, but they're not going to be the same team, Jimmy. We talked about it in the playoffs, right? We talked about it.
They weren't the same team without him in the lineup, without Pesce in the lineup.
No, they're not the same. So they're not going to be the same team next year, Jimmy. Yeah.
No, they're not. I wondered too. Their goaltending too. We spoke about the blood clots and Freddie Anderson. There could be some issues. Do they look around for another solution there?
Here's what I think, Jimmy. I could be wrong on this, misreading it. I think they like Kochetkov.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I do. I think they like him better than Anderson. So we're going to see whether they do or not with what they do this summer.
Yep, will be good. So let's go back to Friday night, though, Pierre, in that second game. And the Dallas Stars, look, I want to give a lot of credit to Matt Duchene, Pierre, because he had that goal call back earlier in the game. He sticks with it. He ends up getting the game winner in overtime to propel them into the conference final. And, I saw him interviewed after the game on TNT. I don't know if you saw the interview, Pierre. It was one of those refreshing.
I watched the whole thing. I went to bed at 2:04 in the morning.
Okay, so, he's been through a lot. We kind of forget the up and down roller coaster that he's had in his career. And, to go into Colorado, beat them, a team that he asked out of. I mean, it's a long time ago, but it still happened. But it seems like he bet on himself this year, and it worked. And he seemed to have I don't know the guy well. I just go off what I read and what I see from afar, but he seems to just really have things in perspective right now in terms of his appreciation of the game and where he is in his career. So it's one of those refreshing interviews for sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, he was on in a pretty good situation.
Right.
So that was great. I was happy for him. Dallas is hard. They're hard to play against. He's a part of it. He's a good part of it.
Yeah.
Big part of it. Pete's a really good coach. We've talked about it ad nauseum here. But the guy that still stood and delivered when it mattered the most, Jake Oettinger.
Oh, yeah.
All the other guys matter a ton. I get it. I totally get it. Oettinger's just gone to another level.
He was unreal. He was unreal in that game. Pierre, I'm driving home and I'm picking up the Colorado feed on the radio here on my app, TuneIn. And I'm driving back from Boston after their game, and the announcers just over and over, oh, my God, it would be 5-1. It would be 6-1 if it wasn't for this goalie right now. Oettinger literally stealing this series from the Colorado. And you could just tell it was setting up to be one of those games where, they're going to go to overtime and they're going to give him everything but the kitchen sink and still lose. And that's what happened. It was purely because of Oettinger.
Well, it was interesting. The first overtime, I thought the game should have been over in the first overtime. Forget the no goal for Marchment and Duchesne's interference. I understand frustration on both sides. I get it. But I couldn't believe the scoring opportunities for Dallas versus Colorado. Couldn't even get a shot on goal. I think they had 4 shots on goal in the overtime in the first overtime.
Yeah.
And Dallas had 11 or 12, if I remember correctly. But it wasn't even close. I mean, Dallas was on them hard in the period where we want to change it. They were on them really hard.
Yeah, it was something. So you look too. Pete DeBoer is one of these guys. I mean, at this time of year, Pierre, I'm kind of just cheering for players, not teams. And he's one of those guys that you're rooting for. He's gotten close before. He's done a great job wherever he's gone. It's never really been his fault, but he's one of these guys that is just due, and and you kind of root for guys like that. They're good stories.
It's amazing what he's done, how close he's been so many times.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget. He goes to the Stanley Cup final in 2012 with Jersey.
Yep.
And that Jersey team never should have got to the final.
No.
But they got to the final because of his coaching and Marty Brodeur's goaltending.
Yep.
They never should have beat the Rangers.
No.
It was Brodeur versus Lundqvist, and Brodeur won.
Yep.
Brodeur won. That's simple.
Yep.
But he did it. They did it. And, Pete's everywhere he's gone. You can look at his record.
Yeah.
San Jose did phenomenal things. Vegas, my goodness, what he did in Vegas was phenomenal. So, no, he's a really good coach.
He seems like one of those guys, Pierre, too. He's tough but fair. That's the gist I get from him.
He's gotten a lot better. So I will tell you this. When he first went to Florida, when he left Kitchener to go to Florida, I think he alienated a lot of his players, which a lot of us, and I count myself as one of them, young coaches, you tend to do that. You do. Yeah. And then you sit back and you relax and you're out of the fray and you evaluate what I do right, what I do wrong. And so you try to make sure you never make those same mistakes again. And I think Pete really did that.
Mm-hmm.
He was a much better coach in Jersey than he was in Florida. Much better.
Yeah.
Now, part of that was mentorship, too. You have Jacques Lemaire sitting on the sidelines talking to you, and you got Lou Lamoriello upstairs. So you got people around you that can help you a ton. And Pete, after his first experience, I think, learned. And then you saw tough, hard, but what you said, Jimmy, fair.
Yeah, he's definitely fair. And I love that embrace and that moment with Zach Parise there, and what was Zach Parise's last game. And I want to send out a congratulations to him on an amazing career. One of the better American players in history of American hockey players, but definitely in my lifetime. One of the best I've seen as a fan and as a reporter.
I agree. And that's such a smart thing to say. I sent him a text on the morning after.
Mm-hmm.
And I basically just said, I remember watching you at Shattuck St. Mary's. I remember your draft year, 2003, like it was yesterday, all these different things from his career. And I said, the one thing that I'll always remember about you, forget all the great athletic superlatives, is what an honorable, good person you are.
Yeah.
Because he really is.
Yep.
I told this story once before. In 2004, he was a big part of the U.S. team that won the first ever World Junior Gold. It was in Helsinki, Finland. And it was a horrible night in Helsinki. It was freezing. It was snowing. It was windy. It was tough. It was a tough night. And he held the U.S. bus. He held the U.S. bus so that he could say thank you to Gordon Miller and myself and everybody at TSN for making the broadcast balanced. It wasn't just pro-Canadian. It was balanced. And he had heard that from his father, who was back in Minnesota, his late father, JP, and a bunch of his family members. So it was kind of neat. Neat. It's one of those things I always remembered about him.
Yep. And of course, I didn't know JP, Pierre. I never met him, but I know you did. And the apple apparently did not fall far from the tree with that.
JP was a hockey innovator. I mean, that Shattuck St. Mary's program probably not where it is now if it wasn't for JP.
Mm-hmm.
He was a really good coach, and he was a proud hockey guy. Like he was a really good player, by the way. People forget he was a really good player. But he was a really proud hockey guy. He really was.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So now they will go on, Pierre, and of course they are awaiting the winner of the Canucks and Oilers. Look, I think right now, regardless of who they play, I like Dallas's chances to advance still. They just seem to have all the elements you need at this time of year when you get deeper and deeper into the playoffs, and that's the goaltending, that's structure, good coaching, and timely scoring. And they've got that going for them right now.
And matchup capability.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You know, Esa Lindell and Chris Tanev, if you're a star player on the other team, they're no fun to play against.
Yeah. By the way, people are jumping on that Tanev bandwagon now, Pierre, but you nailed it when they got him. What a big pickup that was going to be.
That's good. Yeah. Most people didn't see Calgary play. That's probably why they didn't know. Mm-hmm. All I say, and I saw that somebody wrote this the other day, and I was like, "Oh, that's good." Tanev, we talked about it a lot. Tanev's the best player that ever played at RIT, Rochester Institute of Technology, and they've had a good program there for a long time. And Wayne Wilson he's the coach there, national champion at Bowling Green as a defenseman. He's done a great job with their program. But I can tell you right now, it's not even close. Tanev's the best player that ever played there. And I remember watching him before he signed with Vancouver, and I'm like, wow, this guy's really good. And he, started out obviously in the American Hockey League and worked his way up. But you see him now, and you're like, whoa, he's really good.
Yeah.
He's really a good player.
He's built for the playoffs.
He's 35. You know what people he's 35 years old.
I know.
But he doesn't look like, I know he doesn't have any teeth, but I get that. But it doesn't matter. Like, he can still play.
And you know why? Because he thinks the game so well. The thinking can compensate.
He knows his job, and he accepts it.
He doesn't try to go outside that box of that job, of the parameters of his job. He stays within that, and he does it. Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, Pierre, we'll get to our questions in a little bit, though. But, I'm looking at these playoffs, Pierre, and so this would be the only game 7 in the second round, correct?
Yep.
Okay, and we had 1 in the first round.
Yep.
I think the second round's been better than the first, but are you a little underwhelmed right now in terms of the playoff hockey we've seen?
No, the caliber of play has been really high. A lot of the games have been really close. Look at Carolina. Carolina could have won both those games in New York, game 1 and 2. They could have. They absolutely could have, but they didn't. So that kind of sets the tone where they're down 3-0 in the series, and everybody's like, "Oh, they're terrible at playoff." But if they split in New York, which they should have by rights, then it's probably still going. And we, had a game 7 already in that series. But I mean, the caliber of play has been good. You can't say the caliber of play of the Boston-Florida series wasn't good. The caliber of play was good.
It was good.
Caliber of New York and Carolina was good. Caliber of Vancouver-Edmonton, the play's been very solid. Colorado, Dallas, that was underwhelming from Colorado.
Yeah. Glad you brought that up.
I think they're dealing with other injuries and stuff.
Yep.
So I don't think they were 100%.
Good segue before we move on. Colorado, we haven't touched on what their offseason may look like, Pierre. Do you expect some big changes there, or is it going to be more filling in the slots and kind of adding depth things that they need, maybe, so to speak?
I think they're going to add some depth things. They've got some good pieces with their American League team that I think will be ready. Like Sam Malinsky's a defenseman that played at Cornell, a little bit older, Minnesota kid. He's a good player. He already got a little taste this year playing in the NHL. So he's a player that I think will eventually get an opportunity to play up. And they've got some other ones too that are good young players that they've either drafted or they're already working with. So I could see them maybe staying in-house, but I do think they'll probably hope, this is a big word, for Gabriel Landeskog.
Yeah.
I think that's the one piece of news they got to really hang on to. And if they get him back, it changes their team. If they don't, I don't know.
It sounds like from all accounts, Pierre, he wasn't close.
No, that's what I'm saying. So that's the news. They got to get. We'll see. You know what, Nathan? We've talked a lot about Nathan on this show.
Yes,
and Nathan's really intense. And you saw what he said afterwards. I wasn't surprised by it. I know a lot of people were shocked how intense he was, but that's him.
Yeah.
He says, we've only won once here in my career.
Yeah.
He takes that personal. Like he's blaming himself. He's not blaming anybody else.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
blaming himself. How could you not have more guys like that in your organization, Jimmy? They're phenomenal. I know he's intense. I get it. And he maybe gets steamed up time to time, but you want him on your team.
Oh yeah. He sets a standard for sure. For sure. Pierre, but yeah, just looking at them, I mean, we said the one thing. Now look, he proved us wrong and he was great. He came back and his mental fortitude was amazing throughout the playoffs, and that's Georgiev. But I just think you need to solidify that position a little more. I don't know if he's ready to really handle the workload of a number one guy.
No, we agree. We agree. And I think they'll probably look at that.
Yeah.
That's definitely something.
I think they looked at it at the trade deadline. So maybe
they did. They just couldn't get a deal done. But they did. Look, they tried to get Markstrom, okay? They tried to get a Markstrom.
They tried to get Allmark.
To get Markstrom. Didn't work.
Yeah.
Allmark was, Allmark was Allmark.
By the way, Pierre, what do you take from his comments, Allmark, where he's
I'm here for 1 more year.
Yeah, he seems pretty adamant on staying. He's talking about going on a revenge tour and all this. And
I don't know.
Is this going to be difficult for Don Sweeney? Is he going to make this a difficult task to?
I don't, Jimmy. So my question to you is, what's his no trade list?
It's modified at 15 teams.
So think about it. So that's 16 teams out of the mix.
Yeah.
So there's only 16 left. It sounds like a lot, but it's not that many because they have goalies too that they like.
Yeah.
Not everybody dislikes their goalies.
And Swayman's getting a payday. You got another kid ready to come up. And
here's my question for you: how much is he getting?
Here's my okay. So I was going to ask you about that too. My thoughts are he deserves like a 7x7 or 7x5. I don't know, like $7 million a year between 5 to 7 years. But I don't think he's going to get that. I don't think the Bruins do that just yet. I think that it's going to come in more like 6 to 6.25 a year, maybe over 5 to 6 years.
Remember when we talked about when you have star players or kids you think internally that are going to be star players?
Don't waste time.
Don't waste time.
They could have had him at 5 something, Pierre. I think easily.
Get him signed. Do the max if you think he's going to be good.
Yep.
And go. Jimmy, I've told you this for a lot of years.
Yep. You go back to the big one. The big one in Montreal, Pierre.
Touch with me, and you say to me, "Oh my God, that's another one. That's another one." If you think a player's good, and you own him, sign him.
Yeah.
Why would you give him a bridge deal?
I know.
Why would you risk going arbitration?
Yes.
I know you can walk away, but why would you do that?
By the way, he has its player rights arbitration now with Swayman on his contract. So he can take them to arbitration, Pierre, if things go south here.
Anyways.
So that's going to be interesting.
So I think your number's not crazy.
Mm-hmm.
$7 wise, 7 years I don't mind, but $7 and that's tough. Like Donnie must be
more like 6. I think it comes in at 6. We'll see.
Like starting around 5 and go forward, but I could see how the Bruins would be like, we're not sure about that.
Yeah. Yeah. And wonder too, does this get done before the draft?
I would think they'd want to be proactive so they know what they could do in free agency.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to know.
And there's a quick turnaround for everyone that knows.
Yes, you need to know. So what you like, whomever you decide you want to try to sign or trade for, you kind of need to have a fixed cost on where certain guys are.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, I think Grzelcyk's not coming back.
Yeah, Grzelcyk's not coming back. I don't think JVR is coming back.
I don't think he's coming back, and I don't think that the guy you and I like, DeBrusk's coming back.
No, I think he's gone.
So that opens up some area to play for Donnie Sweeney.
Yeah. But
still, you're going to have to do other guys. Is Fabian Lazell ready to play in the NHL next year?
No, not in my opinion.
Okay.
And, nothing. I just, and again, this goes back to how we started the podcast. I think he's the victim of a false narrative. I think he was blown up to be something he's not. I'm not saying he's not a good player and he's not going to be an NHLer. He's just not coming in being the next Pasternak or something. And that's kind of how they were building him up around here. Like
whoever said that is so wrong.
Yeah. People fall in love with prospects way too fast. Just watch them, let them develop, see what happens, And like Pierre, we've said this a million times. It drives me nuts how much people undervalue the necessity of the AHL and developing it in that league and what it can do for players. Look at Mason Lowry this year. Perfect example. How he would go up, then he'd go down, he'd learn, come back, and he'd apply it, and he finally earned himself a spot. By the end of the playoffs, he's a regular in their rotation on the blue line, and he's doing top pairing minutes with Charlie McAvoy at some point. So that's a perfect example. I just don't understand why people are so against having these kids go down and season themselves there, and everyone just wants the instant gratification so fast. It's
such a good league.
Yeah.
People have no idea. The margin between the American League and the NHL is like this.
Yes.
It's not as big a jump as it used to be. I'm just telling you, it's not.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting. Lots to happen here in the offseason. But let's some of these people that are going to be signing free agent deals, Pierre, are going to, like, maybe it's Linus Ullmark who gets traded. He's going to need a move. And that's why he should call TCS Customs and Logistics. Unlock the full potential. I'll tell Linus about them for sure. Unlock the full potential of your shipping operation with TCS Customs and Logistics. From around the corner to around the world, flatbeds to air freight, customs clearance to drawback consulting. TCS is a one-stop shop for all things transport, moving pieces and delivering a peace of mind. For no obligation, customs or freight quote, contact sickpodcast@shiptcs.com. Again, that is sickpodcast@shiptcs.com. All right, let's go to our questions here on a Monday afternoon as we gear up for Game 7 between the Canucks and the Oilers. What do we got? Alex Evanovsky, would you say now is more important for Colorado to get more help up front at forward than it is goaltending? Georgiev wasn't the reason they lost. When they score off the rush, it's a problem.
Yeah, no, everything that Alex is saying is good, but I still think they need to upgrade their goaltending.
Yeah, me too. That'll be interesting to see for sure. All right, next question. Eric Landreau, looking at the Panthers-Rangers series. Oh, yeah. And by the way, I want to tell everyone out there, I'd be remiss if I didn't. We are going to tee up the conference finals. So the Panthers-Rangers series, and then whether it's the Stars and the Oilers or the Stars and Canucks in the West, we're going to tee that up with the one and only Scotty Bowman tomorrow here on the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network. Always a pleasure and an experience when Scotty joins us. Really looking forward to that, Pierre. And then we're going to go even deeper into the Rangers-Panthers series and get the Rangers perspective from Molly Walker of the New York Post on Wednesday afternoon. She will be joining us live from MSG prior to Game 1, so looking forward to that as well. All right, looking at the Rangers-Panthers series, Eric Landreau asks, which bottom six forward needs to have an impactful series, one for each team, in order for their team to have the best chance for success? That's a great question.
It is. I like that one.
Yep.
As I was reading it, I was thinking there are a lot of Rangers that are really good bottom six.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
pulling up the lineup right here to see how they've been doing the lines. I mean, who would be a guy, if there's ever a time for him to step it up? Kako.
But he plays in their top six, so you can't. Yeah,
he's kind of.
No, you got like guys like VC,
Goodrow,
Cooley. Those are the guys you got to be looking at.
I wonder, he's not. He's still top six, but I just want to compliment Lafreniere. What a playoff he's having, Pierre.
First line, so it doesn't count.
I know. I just want to say it, though. I'm so impressed.
Come on, give me a player in the bottom six.
Well, all right.
And then you got
if Cheadle comes back and he dropped to the third line?
Heedle.
Why can I never get that right?
Okay.
Heedle
he would be in the bottom six.
So he could be an X factor if he's healthy.
That'd be a good call.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Cooley for the Rangers.
Okay, and what about the Panthers?
I'm trying to figure that out now in my brain.
I'm going to say and he showed some flashes of brilliance against the Bruins. I think he's been a good, solid guy, but he could step it up even more. What about Evan Rodriguez on that third line?
He was so good in the games in Florida. He was real, and in Boston too, because he'd been in that building so often. You know what? I like that. I like Rodriguez because all the other guys will take care of the physical stuff. Rodriguez is good, actually.
Yeah,
I'm with you on that one.
All right. So
that's a good call. That's
a little up in the air in the Rangers. A little up in the air in the Rangers. All right.
Or no? Who did you take from Rangers?
Well, I took Hedl if he comes back.
Oh, I thought you might go Boston and go VC. I thought you'd be doing that.
We'll put him. Okay, if Hedl can't come back, I'll go VC. Okay. All right. Let's move on here. What do we got? Next question. Joe Bosalina. There are Rangers in the lineup.
Joe Bosalina. And here's the thing I'll tell you about Joseph.
Name.
He was a tremendous tight end. He's a great football player. And I threw a lot of passes to him back in the day. Joseph, thank you so much for writing in. He watches the test all the time.
Oh, great. Good to welcome aboard, Joe. Thanks for asking the question. And your question, of course, is there are Rangers in the lineup offering very little in the way of results. Rempe offers a punishing physical presence. Why didn't we think of him, Pierre?
I'll tell you why I didn't think
Why is he not playing? Because he's not playing, I guess? I mean,
yeah that's number one. And Joseph likes those players because Joseph was one of those players. That's why he likes those guys. Different sports, but he was still pretty nasty, Joe Bosalina.
Is he not tailored for this series against the Panthers, Pierre?
So this is what I was just going to say. He is, but he doesn't have the same savvy as some of those other guys have.
Yeah.
I think he doesn't start the series, and maybe he does, because they need a nuclear deterrent against Florida. Florida's turning this series in. Even Paul Maurice said it. He says, we make it physical. Remember, we talked about it.
Yep.
And so they're going to turn into a street fight. That's what they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if they put Rempe in right away to try to diffuse it, but he'll be in there at some point. He will. That's a great point by Joe. I just don't know if they want to alienate the officials right from the start, the Rangers.
Yeah. We'll see what happens there. I think it's going to be interesting. You're right about the street fight there. Does that make the Rangers do some things they don't necessarily want to do or are used to? So we'll see. We'll see how that unravels in this series. All right, next question. Entertap, what are your thoughts on Natchez to Montreal? What would the return have to be? I think he'd be a perfect fit in Montreal.
There's no return because he's just going to sign that. I don't think they're going to, unless they do a deal.
You think they're just not going to qualify him? Because he's an RFA, Pierre.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen there. I'm telling you. The whole thing there's a very different deal. I just don't know. So what would it cost? Probably an asset, but I just don't think there's a whole lot of love between Montreal and Carolina.
Right.
But I'm kind of like, I don't know. It might have to be a three-way deal.
Yeah. He fits in with what Kent and Jeff are trying to do, though. I'll tell you that.
I just don't know Carolina and Montreal want to do business. I just don't know.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see. And by the way, a lot of talk about them buying out Kotkaniemi now.
So who's going to get in trouble for that?
I know. This is why you pay attention to the eye test, folks. This is why. All right, next question. A to Z me. DeBrusk is the big get, in my opinion, in the UFA market. Do you guys think the Bruins will be crazy enough to let him go? I think he's gone already. I really do.
I don't think it's because
there's been no talk between them.
It's about money, and it's just a different scenario. You know who I think is going to be a big get in free agency? Brandon Montour.
Ooh, yeah.
So, I know the list pretty well. There's 50 guys or so that I think are going to get picked up around the league. Mm-hmm. Montour, to me, right-handed shooting defenseman. He can absolutely shoot BBs. He's hard defensively now. He's won the last couple of years, not the cup, but he's gone deep. So he's got some pedigree, and you can see he wants to be a player. He wants to be a player. So I think Montour is one of those guys. Now, would I want DeBrusk? Yeah, I would.
Oh, yeah.
When I had my last job, we tried to get DeBrusk, just so you know.
There you go. Little tidbit right there for all you out there. All right, next question. Randy Workman, question: Jimmy and Pierre, is Martin Necas a good fit in Calgary?
Yes.
I think he'd be a good fit there.
Yes,
I think
he
he'd
is.
fit in a lot of
Yes.
places. All right.
There's Jake DeBrusk.
Yep. And he wants to be back in Alberta, I'll tell you that.
So is Jake.
All right, next question. Alex Evanowski, you think it's fair to compare the Carolina Hurricanes to the Tampa Bay Rays of baseball? Heavy analytics produce regular season success, but playoff time, it doesn't work. I think that's a great analogy. That's a really solid analogy by Alex there.
So I don't know the baseball side of it, so I'm going to keep my foot out of that pool. But what I will say is I think internally Carolina needs to look at why they haven't gotten over the hump.
Yep.
And I think you know my feeling on it. It's not that they're not a good enough team. I just don't know if there's enough overall sandpaper there. There's something missing. There's some component missing, and I don't think numbers are the thing that are going to determine that.
Yeah.
I just don't. And it's not to say they don't. I'll give you an example. Jordan Martinook is a character kid. Jordan Stahl is a character kid. Jack Drury is a character kid. Sebastian Aho is a character kid. Like, they got a lot of character kids on that. Svechnikov's a character kid.
Yep.
Like, they're character kids. So where's it gone wrong? Like, you know what I mean? There's other.
It's the emphasis, the analytics. I think that's it right there, plain and simple. Start bringing in guys that aren't based simply on analytics. And just, for those that know, I think that's why I like that analysis by Alex. That's Tampa Bay in a nutshell. They rolled through the regular season. It works. But then when it comes down to making those crucial decisions, in the playoffs, Pierre, whether, do I pull a pitcher out right now? Do I pinch hit for this guy right now? Everything they do is based on analytics, and you can't quantify what you need to win in the playoffs. That's the bottom line in any sport.
Hey, you're preaching to me.
All right, next question. Gaming House. Question, Jimmy, will Bussy be the Swayman backup in Beantown next season? Yes, I believe he will.
I agree with that 100%. Saw Bussy play a lot in college, and I think he will.
Yeah, solid player. Great pickup by the Bruins scouting department.
Very good pickup.
Filter Spear. Could Gerard Gallant be persuaded to take an assistant coaching job in Montreal? I think he deserves a head coach job, but would love to see him help that team and Marty.
You know what? He did an amazing job as an assistant in Montreal when he was there as an assistant.
That's right.
And I think Gerard's an outstanding hockey coach.
Yeah.
And a really good team man. I thought eventually he might end up in Detroit with Steve Yzerman. There's a lot of respect there, but obviously that hasn't happened yet. Could he? I know Marty St. Louis would like to add a veteran type coach on their staff, so it could happen.
Yeah, I think
that's an but the other one, somebody raised it last week to us, Jimmy, and I thought it was a really good one. Gerard going back to the Quebec League and running his own program.
Yes,
it was in Moncton.
Yeah,
that I don't see how that would be bad either for Gerard. So he's just he's a really good hockey man. I just can't say enough good things about him. He's a really good hockey man.
Yeah, and just to give the proper credit where it's due, was actually Elliot Freeman brought that up last week. Pierre was saying that there's a chance that could happen. And as we said last week when we discussed it, that would be great. I mean, and we love when coaches do that. Just because you're going down a level doesn't mean you're going down in your career. So
you're kids get better, but you're also making yourself better too.
Exactly. And you're familiarizing yourself with the new generation coming into the league. All right, next question. Evan McLaren, when I look at Carolina, I don't worry that they don't have enough guys who fit the system. I worry that they still don't have enough game breakers, even after adding Gensel. Thoughts? I'm interested to see if they get Gensel back.
So is Jake Gensel going back there? I don't know that.
I think he's going to market.
Great question. Svechnikov's a game breaker, but he had health issues this year. Sebastian Aho is the most underrated, game breaker probably around the league. He's just such a good player. Unless you watch Carolina play, you don't realize how good he is.
Yeah.
They were counting on Necas, I think, to be more of a game breaker, just with his speed and his sizzle. But he's spotty. He's not consistent enough. He's a really good player. So could they use that? I'm sure they could. That's where I think Bradley Nadeau is one of those type players.
Mm-hmm.
Bradley, go look at his numbers at the University of Maine. Go look at his numbers playing for our friend Fred Harbinson out in Penticton.
You say that.
His numbers were off the charts, crazy.
Yeah.
So, by the way, that series is 1-1 between Surrey and Penticton.
Oh, okay, good.
So
Nice.
it's 1-1 going back to Penticton. And they had a big character 3-1 win on Saturday night after getting steamrolled Friday 6-0.
Okay.
So that just, and that's a big series. Those are two very good teams. Surrey's really good. So that'll be fun to watch as we go along here. But they have players. Carolina's got players, I guess, is a long story short.
All right. Surrey, is that where Joe Sakic's from originally?
Burnaby,
okay. Who am I thinking of from Surrey? There was a really good player from there, Pierre.
I don't know, but
okay. I'll come to me. All right. Good old Joe Sakic. We got to get Joe on the show sometime. That would be nice. We'll see if we can do that. All right. Next question. Ida más y culturas extranjeras. I hope I pronounced that right. How would you see the Habs just ramping up in the UFA market with Desharnais to make Mailloux more tradable and Duclair for a third line?
Well, Desharnais is having a playoff in Edmonton. I'm not sure they're in a rush to move it.
Exactly. I don't know if that's going to happen.
What was the other one on? They wanted to add who on the third line?
Go back. Can we pull that up again?
Oh, Duclair?
Montreal kid, West Islander.
Yeah. No. Played for the Lions. Yeah, no, I know. Yep. Player. I could happen.
Yeah. Let's see.
But I think Montreal's looking at bigger fish.
Yep.
Me too. I think that now what's going to be interesting to see what they get with their draft pick. Yeah. What's actually going to be there. But I think they're going big game hunting, I think, Montreal in the offseason.
All right. Next question. Alex Evanovsky again. When you watch this version of the New York Rangers the past 3 years and think back to Lundqvist Rangers of the 2010s, the one thing that sticks out is how important it is to be able to score goals consistently. That is true.
We agree.
Yep.
Couldn't agree more.
Right
now. One of the big heists of all time was Zibanejad for Brassard. It's one of the great heists of all time.
Wow.
Kreider, when he was drafted, was a heist where a lot of people didn't think he had the hockey sense. That's why he won. He was like middle of the 12 or 13, I think, if I remember correctly. So Kreider was a player that, obviously panned out. But the Rangers have done some really good things, like getting Trocheck, was smart. They've done some really smart things, really, really smart.
And some of that goes back to our good friend Jeff Gorton as well. He's part of that, putting this roster together. All right, next question. How much does Tanev get?
I don't think that's a good question by Randy. I don't think it's so much about money. I don't think it's the money is going to sort itself out. I think the term is the problem in the negotiation. I don't think the dollar value is going to be a big deal. Like he'll come in at where he comes in because the comparables will be there, but it's the years that you got to give him as a 35-year-old. That's going to be the big.
All right. Next question. The Puck Bunnies. Is there a Leafs Hurricanes big trade that could happen that would shake each one up enough and make sense at the same time? I think I know where Puck Bunny's hinting there.
Well, do you think they're talking
to MM in Toronto?
Who?
Are the initials MM of the player in Toronto he's thinking of?
That's fair, but to get him, you got to pay.
Oh, yeah.
So my question is, is that Jacob Slavin? I hate to speculate on that.
Yeah.
Because I know what's the one thing Toronto really need? They need
D.
They need D.
Yep. And goal.
They need legitimate big shutdown D.
Yep.
I don't know is Carolina in a real race to do that? Trade Slavin? I don't think so. That's why what I said before matters a lot. Rod didn't get 2 years or 3 years. He got 5.
Yep.
5.
He's going to have a say in that.
So he's going to have a say in what his roster is going to look like, where most coaches do not. I don't as much as everybody's saying, "Oh yeah, Craig Berube is going to have all the say over the roster." You really think so?
Mm-mm.
I don't think so.
No.
I think they'll ask him questions.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to say, "I need Jimmy Murphy right now, and if I don't get him, I'm going to be upset."
Yeah.
I don't
think he's going to do that. Yep. All right. Next question. Bilal Abdelmalik. What up, fellas? Question for Pierre. I went to high school this morning. I went to high school and I'm good friends with both Kyle Ballers and Michael Carconi. Any thoughts or knowledge on them? Ballers, I believe, plays in the ECHL. Carconi, didn't he was up this year.
Arizona.
Yeah. He was really rolling in the beginning of the year. I remember that.
Yeah. Bowlers, I don't know enough about right now. I mean, I remember him, but I think he's East Coast, but I don't know that for sure.
Okay.
But you know what? Just credit where credit's due. Oshawa Generals had a great year. I know that gentleman's a huge fan of the Generals. Great year, lose to an elite team like the London Knights, and there's nothing to be ashamed of there. That's a heck of a season for Oshawa Generals this year. Really good.
All right, next question. Randy Workman, what do the Bruins do with Allmark? They trade him.
I think they trade him.
Next. Oh, I think that's it. It looks like we're out of questions here, Pierre. Yeah, I think that's going to happen there. Carconi, though, quickly. Just refresh me, Pierre, because I remember when I was, I was writing up a preview for a Bruins Coyotes game. I didn't know much about him. Like, wow, who's this guy?
He can score.
Yeah. So what's his background?
Just a Ontario junior guy.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, Pierre, I am looking forward to talking to Scotty Bowman tomorrow. Always a pleasure to have him on.
Is Scotty sending in one last question, or is it somebody else?
Oh, we got one more. Let's see. Nope, it's Alex. Alex Ivanowski asks, who should Boston target this offseason? Reinhart, Lindholm, Pesce, somebody else. I'd say the latter two out of those three. I don't know if you're going to get both or either.
I don't think Reinhart's leaving Florida.
No, I don't think Reinhart's leaving Florida. I think I'll tell you what. What about Montour?
I think he might have to leave Florida.
Be a good fit. Yep.
He'd be good.
Yep. We shall see.
You'd have on the right side in Boston, you'd have McAvoy, Carlo, Montour. It's pretty good.
I think they need somebody on the left of McAvoy, though. I think that's the key to get McAvoy going to the next level.
Who is the player that we wanted out of Calgary?
Hannafin.
Yeah, no Hannafin.
Who's the guy now that they could get? I mean, who's out there that could fit that role for them, Pierre? You know? We shall see.
That was the guy. But I get, too, that Donnie couldn't just blow up his roster to get the player. I understand that, too. I totally understand that. It's easy for us to seriously, get that guy, get that. But you got to still trade assets to get the player. Yeah. Oh, by the way, Jimmy, the one thing, there are people have to understand, good players cost.
Yeah.
You can't just trade for a guy and say, I'm going to give you 2 second-round picks. And, it's a great deal.
Yeah.
It's not happening anymore. It does not happen.
I know. And there's so many things you got to factor in now. So just remember that when you guys are concocting the trade ideas, because it's just not like a video game, unfortunately. You can't just press the button and it goes. Yeah. It's a lot that's going to happen. All right. Well, listen, Pierre, always a pleasure, my friend. Looking forward to talking to Scotty tomorrow. Can't wait for him. How many conference finals that guy playing or coaching, rather?
Yeah, he coached in a lot.
I bet.
He coached in a lot. Oh, my God.
So we will tee up the Final Four in the 2024 Stanley Cup playoffs with the one and only Scotty Bowman here in the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network. Until tomorrow, enjoy the Game 7 tonight. He's Pierre McGuire. I'm Jimmy Murphy. Have a good one.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind.